What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. MTG here with another episode. If you're new to the channel, hi there. Today, as you can see on screen, I have the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Google Pixel 6 Pro, and this is just a video test to see how each one performs. Honestly, in my opinion, just looking at it from here while filming this, they look pretty decent, but we're going to definitely dive into the full review. But before I do begin, I'd really appreciate it if you can give this video a thumbs up and turn on the bell notifications, as it does help out the YouTube algorithm and will help push my content out to more people. So without further delay, let's dive right in. Okay, so you guys saw in the beginning, that was just a sample video of both devices, and I'm going to dive into the camera in a little bit, but I want to start off with design. Looking at them, they're very different. They have a different design approach, but they're still slabs of glass. Let's put it that way. I mean, most smartphones nowadays are slabs of glass, unless you want to count foldables as a different category. But when we look at them, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is much heavier in the hand than the Google Pixel 6 Pro. This comes in about 238 grams, I believe, and 210 grams for the Pixel 6 Pro. And this is made of ceramic shield, the 13 Pro Max, and the Pixel 6 Pro is made of Gorilla Glass Victus. They're both durable, but just one is using a different type of material than the other. Now, both of them, since they are glass, they both have wireless charging, but the 6 Pro supports reverse wireless charging. So if I want to charge up these Pixel Buds A, then I'm able to do that with the Pixel 6 Pro. And unfortunately, the AirPods Pro, I can't charge them with the 13 Pro Max because it doesn't have that wireless, reverse wireless feature. Now, other than that, the 13 Pro Max has a more squared off design than the Pixel 6 Pro, and iPhones have had this kind of, not generic, but this recognizable design. So whenever we see this type of slab of glass, we know that it's an iPhone. We see that camera layout, we know, hey, that's an iPhone. Or when we look at the display in the front, hey, we see that notch, we know that's an iPhone. And this year, Google decided to do it with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. Now, if you look, they have a two-tone finish. It's a sort of sunny is what it's called. And it's kind of going for that gold color, whereas the Pixel 6 Pro, the top bar right here is a more dark gold, towards a golder color than the bottom right here. I actually really like it. And the camera bar is really reminiscent of the Galaxy S10, but it goes all the way across from edge to edge on both phones, the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. So they kind of want to differentiate this from their predecessors. So when someone's using this, they know, hey, this is a Pixel, this is a Google Pixel device. Whereas it's the same thing. When someone sees an iPhone like this, they're like, hey, that's an iPhone. I know what phone you're using. You're using an iPhone because you know how that design looks like. And that's where they're going with the Pixel 6 Pro. And honestly, I like this approach. They went all out and all in. Now, when we look at its front display, we're getting 6.7 inches on both. There we go. We're getting 6.7 inches on both. But the difference here is going to be the resolution. They have 120 hertz refresh rate on both of them, and they're both LTPO. So in essence, they refresh from at least 10 hertz to up to 120 based on what you're doing. And both displays, I mean, I've been using the iPhone 13 Pro Max since launch, as well as the Pixel 6 Pro since launch. And both displays are smooth, crispy. Let's just put it this way. They are buttery smooth. They are just amazing. I absolutely love them. I think that right now, for me, this is the perfect combination of smartphones to use. I absolutely love using both of these together. One as an Android and one as an iPhone. Now, the resolution, iPhone has this weird resolution with their devices, but Pixel 6 Pro, Quad HD resolution. It's iPhone 13 Pro Max is in between Full HD and Quad HD. Like I said, it has these weird types of resolutions. So it's not as high as of the Pixel 6 Pro, but it still supports really high quality videos and if you're watching movies and whatnot. So I gotta say, both displays are amazing. They're great to use outdoors. They're really visible outdoors as well. You won't have any issue with displays. I mean, they are probably one of the best. Now I'm not adding Samsung because it's not a part of this video. If we did add Samsung, it'd be a different story. But if you're looking at display, because I think display is a really important part of the device. It's the part of the phone we literally use the most because we need that this is what we interact with. The display is what we interact with. So having a good display, I think, is really crucial and essential. And thankfully, both the Pixel 6 Pro as well as the iPhone 13 Pro Max are amazing in terms of display. Other than that, like I said, they're both glass. They're using stainless steel on the 13 Pro Max on the sides and this kind of aluminum railing on the Pixel 6 Pro. USB-C, Lightning, we already know that. They have dual speakers as well. So speakers on the bottom for both devices as well as the earpiece speakers for both. Now when we look at the front, we're getting a notch, hence it's a little bit smaller, I believe 20% smaller than its predecessors. And the Pixel 6 Pro, I mean, with the Pixel 4, we got a forehead. The Pixel 5, we got a small camera cutout, and this one is right centered in the middle. And honestly, I'm used to both. Let's put it that way. Like I thought I'd have trouble getting used to the notch, but it really does blend in. I mean, look at my background. I can barely see the notch. I don't have an issue. And on the Pixel 6 Pro, I've been using phones with camera cutouts for a while now, so I'm used to that too. I loved my OnePlus 7 Pro and having its full display and having the camera pop out. I wish more companies went that route, but there are reasons why they don't, and that's okay. But otherwise, some main differences are, design. Like these are really different approaches. They are slabs of glass, don't get me wrong, but they're just really different approaches to how they wanted to go ahead and showcase their greatest device. These are both their highest end devices. Now, when we look at the side, on the right side, we have the power button for the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the power button on the Pixel 6 Pro, as well as the volume rockers. And I've seen a couple people, talking about this is so weird, like having both of these on the right-hand side. But honestly, I mean, I haven't really had any issue. I'm used to this layout. The one thing I do miss is the button is not colored. It's not accented like its predecessors. I kind of wish it was like that, but oh well. The left side of the phone for the Pixel 6 Pro really just has a SIM card slot. And for the iPhone 13 Pro Max, we have the mute switch button, and we have its volume buttons as well as the SIM tray or SIM card tray slot. I kind of wish more companies would go with a mute switch button. Like OnePlus has it too, and it really comes in handy. It's just a physical switch from vibrate to ring to silent. It comes in really handy. So I hope, if you're watching this, any brand, Samsung or Google or whoever it is, can please someone like bring a mute switch button? It's just so much easier bringing that physical button to your devices. Anyway, that's pretty much it for design. I mean, if you're used to Apple's design and you like the slab of glass is much heavier because of that larger battery, obviously, but you don't really want to go something unique and different, I think the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max is the way to go. But if you're on the Android side, then definitely Pixel 6 Pro. Okay, so performance and really software, they're both running different softwares. iOS on the 13 Pro Max and Android 12 on the Google Pixel 6 Pro. And with the Pixel 6 Pro, this Android 12 is a Material U. It's a design overhaul. I absolutely love it. I mean, if you look at my background, it kind of has a light blue tint to it in the wallpaper, and system-wide, it changed the entire themes. Look at my icons. They're all blue. My clock is blue. My weather widget is blue. It's a light turquoise. Let's put it that way. My Google search bar is a turquoise. If you look at my notification bars, my shortcuts, they're all really turquoise. If I go to my settings, if I type in something, let's type in my keyboard right here is turquoise. Everything, system-wide, it's amazing. I actually really dig Material U, so it's a nice change from Android 11. Now, when we look at iOS 15, we got the main, design overhaul by adding widgets in the app library in iOS 14. iOS 15 is a very iterative update. It's much smaller than iOS 14, but it does have those substantial upgrades in certain areas. But either way, I think they're really easy to use. There's a bunch of arguments talking about people saying, iOS is much easier to use than Android, and I don't really agree with that. I think it really comes down to what, it all depends on what your brain says, kind of. If you can say, hey, Android is easy, I'll figure it out. It really is easy. I mean, if you're sitting here and saying, oh man, iPhone's actually really hard to use, then it's going to be hard to use. You kind of have to think and say, hey, I think Android is easy to use and I'm going to use it. They're really easy to maneuver and it just gets easier. The operating system, it's very intuitive. It's very straightforward. Let's put it that way. I think that's the word we're looking for, straightforward. Both of these operating systems are straightforward. I don't really have a preference of which one I like more. I've obviously been using Android for so many more years. And up until then, I was always called, you're an Android fanboy and you don't like iPhone and this and that. But I've been using iPhone for the past couple of years now, mainly starting with the iPhone SE as one of my main iPhone devices to carry as my second phone. And I've really come to like iOS too. And now I don't really have a preference. Like if you were to take away all my Android devices and leave me with an iOS device, I'd be completely fine. I have no issue with that because I'm using both ecosystems. I'm in the Apple ecosystem as well as in the Android, Google, or even Samsung ecosystem. I have no issues with that. I mean, just, take it here from me. Obviously, I'm reviewing both devices, so it's normal for me to test out both and to be in both ecosystems. But if you were to ask me for my personal opinion, I mean, I've been so accustomed to using Android, so I would probably go with the Pixel 6 Pro in this case, not saying that the iPhone 13 Pro is bad. Now, when we come to performance here, like I'm not going to dive into what software features they have. By this point, we know what iOS and Android is. But the differences here are obviously the operating systems. Now, performance, we're looking at two completely different, let's put it this way. The only similar thing they have is they're both using their inbuilt silicon chips. So Apple is using their A15 Bionic chip, and Google for the first time is using Google Tensor, their inbuilt Tensor chip. And before I started recording this today, I actually was reading an article talking about, forget about Google Tensor, Google's working on Tensor 2. So Google is really invested into their own silicon. And with their silicon, they're able to kind of control both the hardware and the software of the phone, just like Apple does with their iPhones, with the hardware as well as iOS. That's how they built their amazing ecosystem. And with Google Tensor, it's going to help with obviously more computational photography, with translating, with all of this AI, with this artificial intelligence technology. Google is able to implement and improve so much more with their devices with Google Tensor. They are now able to own both the hardware and software and optimize it to the best of their ability and to optimize it to however they want. And I really do appreciate that, they're going ahead and choosing their own Google Tensor silicon chip. Now, when we want to look at like physical things like RAM, there's 12 gigs of RAM in the Pixel 6 Pro, and there is 6 gigs of RAM in the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now you're going to say, why is there double the RAM in Pixel 6 Pro? I mean, iPhones don't really need that much RAM to operate their systems, and because it's the fact that Apple was able to optimize so well that they don't need so much RAM. Obviously, they have like 16 gigs in the iPad Pro, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte options with an M1 chip. Do they really need 16 gigs of RAM? Probably not. I mean, but there may be times in a couple of years when app developers create more apps that are using more RAM, then yes, it'll come in clutch there. But as of right now, I mean, 16 gigs of RAM is really a killer for the iPad Pro. And imagine if they put 12 gigs of RAM in the iPhone series. That would be crazy. But performance-wise, they're both snappy. They're both really fluid, intuitive. Like, I haven't really seen any lags in either one of these devices. I've come across a couple of bugs here and there, but those always get resolved with software updates. So performance, I mean, I don't want to do any benchmarks here. I don't really think benchmarks are too important, at least in my opinion. Only reason why I'm saying that is because, I mean, in day-to-day use, I'm not running benchmarks. In day-to-day use, if it's going to open my Google Chrome and have me search the web, or if I'm going to be able to reply to emails or go on to YouTube and, really watch my videos or everything in my subscription box without ease, or if I can text or call or play Call of Duty Mobile, guys, I think that's fine for me. I don't really have any other problems. So performance, if you're looking for either device you're interested, you really can't go wrong. You have nothing to worry about with performance with either device. And also, I want to put on the fact that with software updates, we've been seeing iPhones get software updates for 5, sometimes even 6, and even for iPads, they're kind of pushing it even further. So 5 years, 6 years of software updates for iPhone devices is just amazing. It's because they can optimize the software according to their iPhones. And Google now has that ability to do with Google Tensor. So we're getting 5 years of security updates, but it looks like we're going to be getting, at least right now, 3 years of guaranteed OS software updates. We might be getting 4, and we might be even getting maybe 5, who knows? But at least right now, it is a guaranteed 3 years of software updates. If you want to go ahead and look at Google's official page, it'll say guaranteed, I believe, at least until 2024 for the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. Biometrics, now you just saw the fingerprint sensor. Biometrics, Face ID, and this comes to performance. Face ID has been much more fluid than its fingerprint sensor, in-display fingerprint sensor on the Pixel 6 Pro. It got rid of the physical one on the back of its predecessors, and now it has in-display. This is the optical because it's going to be shining that light, but it's been hit or miss for me, and like I have to wait like half a second for it. I don't really like that, and it's like I said, it's hit or miss. Like sometimes it'll read it, sometimes it won't. Like that's pretty slow if I compare it to something like my OnePlus 8T or the Samsung Galaxy S21 when I was using that. Fingerprint sensor is a little bit slow, so I personally would recommend Face ID in security and authentication over the fingerprint sensor in the Pixel 6 Pro. I hope next year they use something like Qualcomm's ultrasonic in-display fingerprint sensor, or at least improve on the speed of it and its accuracy, because it's been pretty slow for me. Okay, so the big thing comes camera. These have been rivals for a while now, and when Pixel devices first came out, we've always, crowned them for being one of the best smartphone cameras for photos, for stills. And that was true because Google was, showing us that hardware isn't really, that it's not the most important feature. We can always improve with software, and they really did show us that. They use the same main camera lens on Pixel devices from the Pixel 2 up until to the Pixel 5 and 5a. So about 4 to 5 years, they use the same hardware, the same main 12 megapixel camera, and they've really improved every year on the software, and that got us to a certain point, but its rivals, its competitors really caught up, and now they're ahead of the game. So Pixel and Google, they had to change it. And this year we're getting a 50 megapixel main camera lens. And with the 6 Pro, exclusively talking about in this video, we're getting a 12 megapixel ultra wide as well as a 48 megapixel telephoto sensor, which is capable of 4x zoom. Now, when we look at the Apple iPhone, they're all 12 megapixel lenses, but they are much larger. Like you can tell if you have a 12 Pro or 12 Pro Max, the camera lenses themselves are much larger. This is definitely going to let in more light. And if you have cases, they're not going to fit. But when we look at, its telephoto, for example, we're getting a 3x zoom, whereas the Google Pixel 4 can go up to 4x zoom. So there is that difference. More optical zoom on the Pixel 4 over the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now, the wider the apertures, obviously, the more light they're going to let in. And both of them, and I'm going to be putting up sample photos, both of them in daylight, they perform amazing. I mean, I'd go with either one. I'm not too picky about photos. I'm really not too picky about photos. Like I can really tell if I were to compare these with something like the OnePlus 8T, then I could be like, okay, oh yeah, iPhone is definitely hands down. I'm going to choose iPhone for my camera, or I'm going to choose Pixel for my camera if I was comparing it to something like the OnePlus 8T. But with these ones, I think they're really neck and neck with photos and stills. I'm going to be putting up some sample photos. Now, I'm not going into detail, obviously, like other camera comparison videos. I'm still learning as I go. I'm still learning how to review. So really do thank you all for, watching up until now. It really does mean a lot for me. But there is a couple features that I do want to talk about with the cameras. So with the Pixel 6 Pro, we're getting, one thing I really do like is if I take a photo of, let's say I'm going to take a photo of the AirPods right here, as well as the Pixel Buds. I'm going to take that photo and I'm going to go to what we call edit, magic eraser. Now, guys, I know there are apps that can do this too, but it's just cool to see that how Apple has Google has implemented this straight into their app. Magic Eraser is going to find me suggestions, and it really didn't. So I'm going to circle or brush to erase. I want to brush out my Pixel Buds A, and there we go. So it did find it. Let's hit done, and let's save copy. It's like right here. It's really, you can really tell that something has been erased. But if you want to use this outside and, take a picture and, erase someone from the background, it works perfectly fine. It works actually not even fine. It works really well. And Google obviously has some room for improvement, but I believe their Google Tensor chip is going to help with that. So I really like that feature of having that here as well. And also it has motion, so long exposure and action pan. And I did take a photo of a long exposure, and I'm going to compare it with its original and how it looks. I think it's really useful, man. To get those types of photos, it would take, you'd have to go through Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever and edit. And it's just nice to see how far we've gotten with smartphone camera technology, and we just do it with the click of a button. Okay, and a feature that I like with the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max is cinematic mode, and that does bring me to video. You guys saw a sample video for the introduction of this video, and let me know in the comments down below which one you would prefer, which smartphone you would prefer for video. But I still think I would go with the Apple iPhone. It's just more, it gives you more real to life colors. Whereas the Pixel 6 Pro does seem to go a little bit over HDR and does kind of like to saturate just a little bit. It feels like the Apple iPhone is giving that more like, okay, this is real life. It's taking a video of real life colors and whatnot. And the Pixel 6 Pro, it's amazing, but it just doesn't give that feeling to it. And I also like that the Apple iPhone has cinematic mode on their 13 series. So I'm just looking at that, what it does is cinematic mode. It'll blur the background. It's essentially portrait video. And I actually really do like that. I think a lot of people can make use of this and use it as their beginner smartphone camera to use to make videos and to make content on YouTube or whatever it is, TikTok and whatnot. Now, the 13 Pro Max also has support for ProRes and raw photos and whatnot, and you won't be able to get ProRes on the regular 13 and 13 mini. But overall, I mean, while both cameras, they perform really well in stills, I personally just prefer how the 13 Pro Max camera video especially just gives more real life color or videos. So for me, videos is still the way to go, and it just kind of this is where I kind of can share my own opinion. It really does flow into my ecosystem. The fact that I'm using an iPad mini to edit photos, the fact that I use my MacBook Pro for Final Cut Pro, just using AirDrop makes it so much easier. Whereas, Pixel 6 Pro, I just got to take an extra step or two, and that does take up time as well. So Pixel 6 Pro video isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a huge improvement over its predecessors, but I just personally would still go with this just because it fits in my workflow much better. Now, if you took my workflow and kind of changed it, then yeah, I would go with 6 Pro for the video. But just because my workflow requires or is surrounded by Apple devices, this just fits in really well. Okay, and when we come to battery, man, oof. Battery. Okay, so this is definitely much heavier. The 13 Pro Max is definitely much heavier than the Pixel 6 Pro, and that's because of the battery, but the capacity is smaller. Now, it's obviously because of the build as well. It's using ceramic shield and whatnot. The Pixel 6 Pro has a 5,003 milliamp hour battery, and the iPhones always have these weird capacities. I think it's like 4,300, I don't know, somewhere around there. And let me tell you, I have SIM cards in both of them. I have 2 SIM cards. And let me tell you, the 13 Pro Max is the battery champ. That's it, period, done, forget it. Let's not even talk about Pixel. It's the battery champ. It wins. I don't need to charge this for literally 2 days. I can go in the 3rd day without charging it. That is how, unless obviously I'm using it for videos, then I need to charge it. But on days when I don't use it for videos, I can go 2, even 3 days. Like in the third day, I'll end up charging this. It is really amazing. I'm getting about 8 to 9 hours of screen on time on those days, obviously, when I'm not using video. When I'm using video, it's about 9 to 9.5. It's just amazing. Pixel 6 Pro, honestly, it's all right. You know, I thought it was going to be great. And I've been using this at the time of this recording for about more than a week now since its launch. And it's just, I think I had my expectations way up there because it's not how I was expecting it to perform. I think it's decent at best. I mean, yeah, 5 hours and 19 minutes of screen on time. But I was really thinking more than that. I mean, it's 30% at 9:49 p.m. I really was thinking I'd get, 7 to 8 hours and I'd be maybe more up there, or 7 hours of screen on time with 30%. But it didn't get up there. And I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of people who get really good battery life with the Pixel 6 Pro and are getting 8-9 hours of screen on time. I guess it all it changes from user to user. But for me, it just has, and I know MKBHD hasn't really gotten the best battery life on the Pixel 6 Pro either. So that was kind of a letdown for me. So if you're looking for something that's going to last you for days, like you can go on a weekend trip with the 13 Pro Max. And if you're just going to use it for taking some photos and calling some people and texting, and it will last you the entire weekend without any hesitation. The Pixel 6 Pro, I don't think so. I think you'd probably have to bring a charger in the end. Now that also does bring me to charging speeds, 30 watts, and I believe it comes on 20 watts of charging for the 13 Pro Max. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I like how the 13 Pro Max has MagSafe charging. Now Pixel 6 Pro is USB-C, so just one cable. One cable goes for all products, for the headphones, for my computer, and everything like that. But MagSafe, really does come in clutch. I have a MagSafe car charger. I have a MagSafe charger on my desk. It's just really easy. Just, pop it on to your MagSafe and you're all set to go. Now, I've seen a couple of videos. If you do get like a Moment case for the Pixel 6 Pro, it has magnets, so it can be used as a, you can charge it via MagSafe. I kind of wish, Android devices would come out with something like MagSafe as well. I know some Chinese companies that do that. They came out with their own MagSafe, but I kind of wish it did have that. But USB-C, it charges fast. It's not the fastest. 30 watts is not the fastest. I mean, 65 watts on the OnePlus 8T has been amazing. I really do miss using that as my main device. And Lightning, guys, Apple, come on, please, if you're listening to anyone out there who reviews Apple devices, a lot of them want the Lightning cable gone. Don't go Lightning to no cable. Go Lightning to USB-C, please. I mean, you got USB-C on your iPad mini now. You have USB-C on your iPad Air and your iPad Pros. Please bring it to the 13 Pro or the iPhone 14 series or whatever. Just bring it to the iPhone, please. Please and thank you. Battery goes to the 13 Pro Max. Okay, so last but not least is price. And for me, price is a huge factor when picking up a smartphone, and I know a lot of other people, it's a huge factor for them. I did work at Best Buy in the mobile department, so I do know we would sell phones, and right when you're about to get a sale, they would ask you the price, and you tell them the price, and they would completely change their mind because it's way over their budget. And the 13 Pro Max is obviously the much more expensive one when we're comparing these two. $1099 for 128 gigs. And $899 for the Pixel 6 Pro. Man, I was thinking like $999 or $1049 for the 6 Pro, and they went $899. And I'm going to be putting up prices right here for the 6 Pro. That is amazing. Like $899 for 128 gigs, $999 for 256 gigs, and $1099 for 512 gigs. That is amazing. Google really did nail it with pricing. They really did well with pricing with the 6 Pro as well as the Pixel 6. I mean, $599 for the Pixel 6. Okay, that's for a different video. But even when you're comparing this with its competition, Galaxy S21 Ultra, when the S22 Ultra comes out, I don't know how much that will be. So let's just stick with the S21. $1,200. Or if you're comparing it with the OnePlus 9 Pro, $1,069. 13 Pro Max. $1099. I'm putting up prices right here for the 13 Pro Max. $1099 for 128 gigs. I think it just goes up $100 from there. I could be wrong. I'm putting up the exact prices right here, but I do know with the 1 terabyte is like $15.99. Well, okay, 1 terabyte. That's awesome. I mean, I don't know who's going to use a terabyte. There are definitely people out there, and you have your reasons. I really do respect that. I'm just personally used to 128 gigs for now. I might, in a year or two, need to upgrade to 256 gigs, and then I'll probably be, in a couple years, be the base storage for phones as well. But $1099. So if you're looking to get the 13 Pro Max over the Pixel 6 Pro, then you're going to be forking over an extra $200. And if that's not an issue, then that's okay. But I really do think Pixel 6 Pro is priced super well. I mean, for what you're getting, let's put it this way. For what you're getting flagship features for a price of $900. It's undercutting its competitors. That's amazing. And Apple iPhone, I mean, I'm used to this $1099 price tag. I think it's fine. But if you ask me price, I mean, if I were, picking up a device for myself and price was like the main factor or one of the determining factors, I would say Pixel 6 Pro, because $900. I mean, yes, it's $200. Like if you're, going all in on a new device, a flagship device, what's an extra $200 going to do? But there are people, there are consumers out there that say, I can use the extra $200 for a case. I can use the extra $200 for a set of earbuds for the Pixel Buds A that cost, $99. Or I can use it for accessories, for chargers, because neither of them come with a charger in the box. So if you went ahead and picked up the 13 Pro Max and you need to get cases, it's going to add up, and you put in that $200 that you were going to pay for a 13 Pro Max into the accessories. So now you got the Pixel 6 Pro, you got some headphones, and you got a case, and they might even be less than what you're getting with just the 13 Pro Max. So it really does come down to the user and the consumer. But for me, I personally go with Pixel 6 Pro. Okay, so looking at both of these devices, they're the best of both worlds. If you're looking for the best in both worlds, if you're looking for the best of the best iPhones, 13 Pro Max is the way to go. And if you're looking for the best of the best in the Android world, I personally think right now the Pixel 6 Pro is the way to go. Its camera is a huge upgrade from its predecessors, and its design, I love this design. Its design aesthetics is just amazing. And just the price of this is what really got me to say, hey, this is what I would use as my main Android device. But if you were to choose either one, I mean, I don't know if I can choose one, but if I were to choose one, I can give you my opinion. If I were to choose one, I would ultimately go with the Google Pixel 6 Pro, just because I've just been accustomed to using Android for so much more. If I didn't have this YouTube channel, if this wasn't, what I do as a hobby and what I enjoy, I'd be using the Pixel 6 Pro as my main device. And price would be a determining factor, as well as just the overall, just the fact that since I've been using this longer than the iPhone, I'm just more used to it. It just feels more intuitive for me. Now, that may change from person to person, but for me, I'm just used to it. And I'm not that type of person who likes to, change things. And if I'm used to something, I don't really want to switch to something else, something different. Even when it comes to reviewing phones on the channel, I'm consistently switching my main daily driver or my iPhone to a different iPhone. Just the setup process, in the end, you're switching something, you're changing something. I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan of switching phones, device to device. But when you gotta test them, you gotta test them. But my personal choice would be Pixel 6 Pro. But that about wraps up this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to Superman that subscribe button, comment down below, and best of all, share this video because it really does help out the channel a lot and will help push my content out to more people. You guys make my dream become a reality. I never would have thought that, right now I'd be sitting here making a video about, two of my favorite devices and one of arguably the best devices in 2021, the best of Apple and the best of Google. I never thought I'd be doing this. This is all thanks to you guys. Thank you all so much for the support, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Anyway, everybody, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to Superman that like button, comment down below, because with the more interactions we get on this video, not only helps the video and the channel, but also pushes the video out to more viewers. And best of all, Superman that subscribe button. Until next time, everybody, and until next video, this is MTG.